Okay, so let us begin with today's topic. Today we are going to discuss about what is known as the Hamming bound. So in order to construct a single error correcting Hamming codes, we have what is this known as the Hamming bound, which says that, which is going to give us an idea about how many number of code bits or the code vector, how many bits a code vector should contain for a code to be called as a single error correcting codes. So what is that bound is? If an n comma k linear block code is capable of correcting up to t number of errors, then the total number of syndromes shall not be less than the total number of possible error patterns. So what is this Hamming bound is? If we are considering a block code which is capable of correcting up to t number of errors, then the number of error syndromes, which we said in yesterday's case, yesterday we had come across this number of possible error syndromes as 2 raised to n minus k. The number of syndrome combinations cannot be less than or shall not be less than the number of possible error patterns. As we know, what does that mean is, if at all, if I am talking about a single bit error combinations, for a code vector of 7 bits say or n bits, the possible number of error locations are either we will have no errors at all, that means the error does not occur at all, or the other possibility is the error can occur in bit 1, the error can occur in bit 2, the error can occur in bit 3. I am talking about the location. Please, I am numbering it. This represents the location. Okay, hash location. Or the error can appear in 4th bit, so on. There could be n different possible error patterns if it's a single bit error. In such cases, the number of syndrome patterns shall not be less than the number of possible error patterns. In our case, it is equal to n. But in general, if we know t, we can write this as summation I running from 0 to t, combination of n symbols taken I at a time. Okay, so this is going to give us an idea about how many number of possible error patterns are available, and that is on the right hand side, and how many syndromes are necessary in order to identify all these n number of, or how much ever error patterns that we are going to get. These error patterns, in certain cases we can have a single bit error patterns, there could be double bit error patterns. Okay, so this is going to give us an idea about how many error patterns a code can detect, basically. So we are talking about the detection of error occurrence. That means for every error pattern there is going to be a particular syndrome associated with it. So if at all, if I am saying that these many combinations of errors are possible, then that many, at least that many syndromes should appear or should be present in our parity check matrix. So this is the equation which is known as Hamming bound. This is known as Hamming bound. So in order to construct an Hamming code or a single error correcting Hamming code, we will require that the number of the syndrome patterns should always be greater than or equal to the number of possible error patterns. If at all this equation becomes exactly equal to, that is 2 power n minus k, if it is exactly equal to summation I running from 0 to t Cni, then this is called as a perfect code. Yesterday we just said it in a different way, nothing but 2 power n minus k minus 1 is greater than or equal to n, or if it is exactly equal to n, then we are saying that it is a perfect code. Both are right. Whatever we said yesterday exactly the same meaning which is carried by this expression. Now we will take a particular case over here and then we shall see how this Hamming bound is going to work, or how do we get an idea about this. Let's suppose I am taking d min is equal to 3. If d min is equal to 3, then t is obviously it's a floated value of d min minus 1 divided by 2. So this gives us an integer value of equal to 1. That means I am considering a linear block code which is capable of correcting 1 bit error. In such cases, we assume that by making use of this inequality equation, we have arrived, consider k as equal to 4. N value that, the minimum n value that satisfies this inequality is n is equal to 7. So let us consider how many error patterns are available in this case. To know the number of error patterns, I am considering the right hand side of your Hamming bound expression, which is I running from 0 to t, Cni. I am writing it specific to this particular problem. Summation I running from 0 to 1, combination of 7 bits taken I at a time. Okay, so this is 7C0. You can also write this 7, I mean normally we write it like this, 7C1, like this we are going to write, but both are correct. Okay, so obtain this value. How do we write NCR? NCR expression is n factorial divided by r factorial into n minus r factorial. Do this and give me the value for the summation. Do this and give me the value for this particular summation. 8. Okay, Tejas is saying 8. Let us see. This is 7 factorial divided by 0 factorial, 7 minus 0 factorial. So this is going to give us 7 factorial. So 0 factorial is 1, and then here also we are going to get 7 factorial. So this is 1 plus this value is 1. This one is 7 factorial divided by 1 factorial. 7 minus 1 factorial, you are going to get 7 in the second case. So it is 1 plus 7, which is equal to 8. The value of this is going to be equal to 8. Let me write it here. 7 factorial divided by 1 factorial into 7 minus 1 factorial, which is equal to 8. So the value is 8. What are these 8 possible syndromes? Yesterday we have seen, while constructing the transpose of a linear parity check matrix, as well in determining the parity matrix. Parity check matrix consists of all possible error syndromes except the all zero combination. But here, when we say that the possible error patterns are 8, if the possible error patterns are 8, that means it also considers the all zero combination. That is, error pattern means it's an n bit combination, so it's going to have 7 bits. So it will consist of all zero combination as also one of the error patterns. Please remember this while we are getting it. And coming to the left hand side of the Hamming bound, it is 2 raised to n minus k. In place of n I have 7, in place of k I have 4, which is equal to 8. So it is exactly equal to the RHS part, that is number of possible error patterns. So therefore, this is a perfect code. So 2 raised to n minus k is exactly equal to the summation I running from 0 to t nci. So in this case, it is getting satisfied, therefore it satisfies the Hamming bound. Okay, like this, there are many different combinations of n and k which are going to satisfy this Hamming bound expression. For t value is equal to 1, that is, for a single bit error, there are different combinations of n and k which are satisfying this Hamming bound, which is 15, 11. N is 15, k is 11. We have 31, 26, and then we have 63, 57. These are all some of the n and k combinations which are single error correcting Hamming codes. Depending on your message information block size, we can define the n values over here. Okay, so this is it about the Hamming bound. Now we are going to look at, now that we have arrived at certain concrete ideas regarding how to construct a single error correcting codes, that is Hamming codes basically. So what we know, first we will know the problem is starting parameter is t, how many number of errors I should be able to detect at my receiver. So t is the starting point and k will be known to us, the size of the message block is known to us. Once I know t, I can calculate daemon. Since I know k, I will make use of this inequality expression and find out what is the value of n that satisfies this inequality by trial and error method. Once I know this, I am going to get the value of n. Once I know the n value, I am going to subtract k value from n. So I am going to get the number of parity bits, and from this number of parity bits, I will get to know how many possible syndrome combinations are present. Okay, so with this information, then I am going to write the parity check matrix in terms of the parity matrix coming at the top and followed by the bottom I have the identity matrix I suffix n minus k. So once I know this, I arrange all these 2 raised to n minus k except the all zero combination. I am going to arrange all other 2 power n minus k minus 1 combinations of bits in this arrangement. This parity matrix, again, it can be defined as per our requirement. You can interchange the bit combinations in order to get different parity matrix. But for a linear block code, if you are using a particular parity matrix on the transmitter side, it should be the same parity check matrix should be used on the receiver side. So please keep that in mind. So now I get to know the code that is constructed using this particular parity matrix can be recovered back on my receiver side if I know the parity check matrix, right? So what do? I find out the syndrome on the receiver side by multiplying the received vector with respect to the transpose parity check matrix. I obtain the syndrome and map it to one of the rows in this particular parity check matrix. But since we are talking about single bit error detection and also correction, we will be able to do it in a much simpler way when it comes to the Hamming codes. So what we do is, we are going to construct a table well before. It is kind of a lookup table. So to the receiver, we are going to make its job very simple by forming a lookup table in order to detect a particular code. So every time when it sees a particular received code vector, it need not have to worry as to, or it need not have to do a lot of calculations in order to identify which was the actual code word that is transmitted. So we can make its work even more simpler by writing a table which is called as table lookup array. So we are going to call it as a lookup array. Okay, table lookup decoding process using the standard array. Format. So what we know is, since the code vectors are affected only in one particular bit location, we are going to write a lookup table sort of a thing where only one bit are changing every time whenever we are going to transmit. So let us consider a particular scenario over here. Let us see what is the standard array, how do we construct all these things. So what is that we know is, whenever we have the code word vectors C, code set, we call it as code set C. Assume that I represent each code vector as Ci, then there are 2 power k possible number of combinations of code vectors, which is C1, C2, valid code word vectors that I am talking about. So the last one would be C suffix 2 raised to power k. That means there are 2 power k distinct codes in an n comma k linear block code. 2 power k distinct n comma k linear codes. Okay, so this is the one that I have. So what do I get? For this corresponding code vectors, I will have the error pattern for each one of these code vectors whenever they are being transmitted over the channel. So that error pattern is always, we detect it as capital E. We represent the error pattern as capital E. Assume that the error pattern that I obtain for the transmission of a particular code word, and the error has occurred during the transmission. I have found out the error pattern, I am adding it to the transmitted code vector. This is what gives me the error code of, this is an error particularly which is generated for the code word vector, which is Ci. So for any one of these 2 power k combinations of code vectors, I will have the unique errors defined, which is E suffix I, which is obtained by adding the error pattern to the code word vector. So this unique error pattern which I am going to get after adding the error pattern to one of these 2 power k possible combinations, this EI is called as what is known as coset. We are going to call it as a coset of the code. I tell you why it is called as coset of the code when I write the table itself. Sorry, I don't know whether you are able to see this. This is called as coset of the code. EI is called as a coset of the code, set of EI. So every code word over here is going to have its own particular coset. Okay, and all the cosets are different from each other because C1 is different from C2, C2 is different from C2 raised to power k. So if I am going to multiply H transpose on both these sides, I am going to get EI into H transpose is equal to A into H transpose plus C into H transpose. I already know the code vector Ci. When I multiply it with H transpose, this is going to vanish, this is going to go to 0. So EI into H transpose is same as E into H transpose. That means the syndrome that I evaluate, S is equal to E into H transpose, is same as the coset which when multiplied with parity check matrix, I am going to get the same syndrome. So this says that, assume that if I have an error pattern available with me, if that error pattern is generating a particular coset of the code, then this code, whatever coset that we are generating, this is sufficient to replicate the same error pattern, and therefore I can represent all the available error patterns using this what is known as the coset. Let me give you a scenario and then you will be able to understand. Okay, I'll write the table first, then I will explain the theory behind that, how it has been written and all those things. It's very simple. What we are trying to say is, we are having the code words over here. Okay, so I'm generating a code word set. I'm writing a table where the C1, the first code word vector, starts with an all zero combination. Assume that it's an all zeros. Therefore, one of the code vectors is always an all zero. C2, C3, so on. This table extends up to valid 2 power k code words. Then, corresponding to this, I will have certain cosets. These are the possible single error patterns, which is the total number of error patterns that are available with us is E2 raised to n minus k, because those are the number of syndrome combinations that I can have, where one of the all zero syndromes is also considered as one of the error where there is no error basically. So the error pattern corresponding to a all zero syndrome is all zeros. Okay, you are adding nothing, which means it has not ended up in an error. So I can consider this all zero code word even as a code word and also as a error pattern. So please remember this. I am taking a particular example of 7 bits over here. I am taking a 7-bit code word, but it is an all zeros over here, all zero combination. So this all zero combination can also form a code word vector, can also form an error pattern. So this one would be of the type where the first bit is going in error. I'll write an example over here so that you will be able to understand. What was the C1? The first error pattern E1 was all zeros. The second pattern is first bit is ending up in an error. The second combination here is the bit number 2 is going in error. Then the third bit is going in error. So on. The last one would be the last bit going in error. These are the possible single bit error patterns. So since these patterns are constants, these are not going to change. So whenever you send any code word, the possible error patterns that can affect a particular code word is error can appear in bit 1, error can appear in bit 2, or error can appear in bit n. The possibilities are only that much. So this is bit 1 in error, bit 2 in error, bit 3 in error, bit 7 in error. So this error pattern is irrespective of the code vector that you are transmitting. The location of the bits or the error bits are irrespective of the code word that you are transmitting. So at that moment, whichever the error pattern that is going to get attached, that is what the received vector is going to be. So observe here, the C1 is different from C2. I assume that, let me write in combination over here. You can give me one code word. Let's suppose I am taking this as my code word. I don't know whether it is correct or not. I am just writing a random. This is generated using particular parity matrix. Okay. Now what I will do, I will write for this valid code vectors, I will only define what are all the possible combinations that I am going to get on my received code vector whenever I am going to add an error in the first bit, whenever I am going to add error in the second bit. I am only going to tabulate it. What will that happen? This code vector gets converted into 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. When there is a bit 2 in error, then this becomes 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. When the third bit is in error, it becomes 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1. When the last bit is in error, it becomes 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. So these are the possible replica of the C2. These are the possible combinations or appearance of the code word C2 after it undergoes 1 bit changes, after it undergoes either one of the n bit getting changed. So here the bit 1 is changing, bit 2 is changing, bit 3 is changing, bit 7 is changing. This is simply an example. Assume that. So what if we are going, this table is going to get constructed for all the 2 power k valid code word vectors. So in the receiver, what we do is we are going to have this table which acts like a lookup. What the receiver has to do is the simple thing. It can look at the R vector. It will get a R vector, right? It's an n bit vector. It will try to map this R vector within this lookup table. Let's suppose it happens to be this. This is my received code. What it will do, instead of calculating the error pattern and then adding it to this to try to obtain C2, rather once it knows in which column it is going to be present, once it identifies this is my R, then it straight away looks into the table and looks at the top of the table and see which is that code word vector. So it will get to know that it is C2, which is with the combination 1, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. So it will get to know that this is my code word. So what it will do, finally it is going to give out the output as the C2 was the transmitted vector. So it will not bother about this error pattern because The mapping has been done already in the standard array. It is already in its standard format. So the receiver need not have to do much of a thing. Only thing is it has to look up properly in which column my received vector is present. Just go to the top of that particular column to find out what was the code vector corresponding to that. As simple as that. I hope you got the idea. Please say yes or no.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So this is what we call it as a standard array format. Okay. So if you observe over here, if you observe one thing carefully over here, this C2 will be different from C3. Let me put it as like this. Okay. I'm taking a different code word over here. So this will also have, let's assume that first bit is changing here. Second bit is changing. Third bit is changing. Okay, and the last bit is changing. In this particular scenario, observe over here, whenever you are trying to find out the syndromes or the error patterns by making use of a standard strategy, for yes, in order to calculate yes, what would you do? You consider an R and multiply it with H transpose to obtain yes. You looking at this yes and looking at which row in this H transpose this yes is present, you are going to locate the error. You are going to find out the error location. Then you are going to generate using this error location.
Ma'am, you are
going
not
to
audible,
highlight
ma'am.
that location with bit 1 and then rest all will be 0 so that you obtain a error pattern. But if you observe over here, if you consider this received symbol and this received code word, either you consider this received vector, either you consider this received vector, both the times when you try to decode or try to find out the syndrome and then its error pattern, both will result in the same error pattern. Both will result in the same error pattern. Irrespective of the code word that you are transmitting, if in the transmitted code word vector, if at all the bit 1 is going in error, then the error pattern is fixed. Right? Similarly, if I consider the bit 3 is going in error in all the code word combinations, then obviously the syndrome that I am going to get will be corresponding to the third row, and the third row location corresponds to the error pattern 001 followed by 4 zeros. So this error combination or coset, this column is what we call it as coset, and these are called as coset leaders. Okay, this E1 is there, E1 is an all zero combination, please remember this. These are called as coset leaders. E1, E2 so on up to E2 raised to n minus k are all called as coset leaders. Okay, fine. This is an n-tuple error patterns which are correctable error patterns. Why we are saying it as correctable? Because we already know this particular Hamming code is capable of correcting t number of errors. So we are constructing a standard array format for the error for the code which is capable of correcting t number of errors. So in this case, we are writing all possible 1-bit combinations of errors, and then we are writing the coset leaders, and corresponding to coset leaders, we are going to write all possible error code word vectors which could end up in an error in bit 1, bit 2, bit 3, so on up to bit n. Okay, so like this we are going to write, fill in all the entire standard array. This can be written as C2k plus E raised to, E with the error pattern E2 raised to n minus k. This can be written as C4 plus E4, C3 plus E3, C2 plus E2. This one would be C2k into E1, where E1 is an all zero combination. So in general, I can write it like this. So this is what we represented before, that EI, the coset leader, this is what we call it as EI. EI is equal to E plus CI. This is what we are going to get. Or the error pattern E is equal to EI plus C. Okay. So this is the standard array. I hope you got the idea about the standard array. We can discuss about this more. We will come across how to generate the standard array format and then how we are going to decode this. So this method of identifying all possible single errors and writing their corresponding possible error received code vector combinations. This method is called as, we are trying to map the R to one of the error patterns and then we are going to find out which is the code word. This method is known as the minimum distance decoding method or maximum likelihood decoding method. This is called as maximum likelihood decoding process that we are going to make use of. Okay. Do you have any doubts so far? Any doubts so far?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So these are it. We need to discuss the properties of this standard array. We will let me give you the first property. There are three main properties. Property number one is, property of this standard array table is that each element in the standard array is distinct and hence different columns of the arrays are disjoint. So if you consider each and every element in this are going to be different from each other at least in one bit. Okay, and you can see that the different columns of the arrays are disjoint. That means this column entries have got nothing to do with this column entry because C2 is different from C3. So that is property number one. And property number two, as I said, the first n tuples, these corresponding to all zero combination, the error patterns will be there, no? This first column, whatever that is there, so these which are leading, this is called as a coset, okay? One row is called as a coset. This row is called as a coset. And whatever the element that comes at the beginning, this is called as a coset leader. That is E2, E3, E4, so on up to E2 raised to n minus k. These are called as coset leaders, and these are the single error patterns which are correctable for an all zero code word. So therefore these are also called as correctable error patterns. These are also called as correctable error patterns. So keep this in mind. The third property is that, the second property in that we can also say that it's a minimum distance coding or maximum likelihood decoding process. Property number 3 states that all the 2 raised to k n tuples of the cosets have the same syndrome and the syndromes of the different cosets are different. So observe here, what does that mean? All the 2 raised to k n tuples means the code words are going to power n tuples of the coset have the same syndrome. So if you look at the coset, the n tuples in the coset all will have the same syndrome, but if you look at the two different cosets, their coset leaders are different. Okay, so this to this there is a change, but then all these code words will have the same syndrome. What does that mean? In a coset, the syndrome for that particular coset will be the same irrespective of the code words, and then one coset is different from the other coset because the error pattern is changing from one row to the other. So these are the properties. Okay, so these are the three main properties of the standard array table which is constructed for a Hamming code. So using this standard array table, tomorrow we are going to look at, I will maybe possible we will have one class because with this the 4th unit will complete. we will have to finish corresponding to this standard array format. We are going to do one problem so as to how to do the decoding process for the available standard array, and then how to write the circuit diagram in order to generate the syndrome corresponding to which is going to have this error patterns. So we are going to find out the syndromes, and then for every error patterns that we are having, there is going to be a particular syndrome. We are going to find out how to do that for a given example, and then we are going to look at how to write the circuit diagram for the syndrome generation as well as error pattern generation, that we will see for this particular having code. With that, your unit 4 will complete, then we will have to start off with the unit 5. Okay, hopefully I will be able to finish it by giving you the video. You can look at it, and then we will finish this off, so that from the next week onwards we will start off with the unit 5 with the cyclic codes.